Computer. Hello, Poetry Salon Cast listeners and Poetry Salon Cast viewers on YouTube. I am Tresha Faye Haefner. I am the founder of the Poetry Salon and your host for the Poetry Salon Cast. And today I am here with the fantastic Word Troubadours, Ellyn Mabey and PJ Swift. I'm just going to read a little bit about their latest collection, and then I'm going to ask them to share some poetry. So forgive me as I grab this little bio here. So, iconic Southern California poet Ellyn Mabey teams up with newcomer PJ Swift in an exciting collaboration, Word Troubadours. Years after their first encounter in Europe, Ellyn discovered PJ's newly crafted creations shortly following PJ's move to California. Shifting from poet to curator and back again, Ellyn assembled pieces by PJ with her own poems, creating a book of compatible styles, themes, and imagery. This eclectic collection revels in their shared inspiration in the arts and travel and a celebration of the artistic spirit, creating a passport that weaves through a mutual emotional terrain and musical landscape. The Word Troubadours book is gracefully designed and published by Mystic Boxing Commission. And I'm so happy to welcome to the podcast, to the Poetry Salon Cast, Ellyn Mabey and PJ Swift. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah.
So, Ellyn, I'm going to ask you first to read, and I think you're reading a poem of PJ's, and then PJ will read a poem of yours. So, Ellyn, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, thank you. This is called Perennial. It's a wholly expected miracle. Flowers bloom on regular occasion, sometimes more, sometimes less. Blossoming is inevitable. And yes, those buds could be snapped or trampled upon, but always something will bloom somewhere, somehow again. Do poems flow from the same spring, unstoppable, perennial, always blossoming, infinitely unique? Invariably miraculous, providing scent and color and asserting life.
Thank you, Ellyn.
Thank you. This is called Cinema Dance, and this is from the year I first met Ellyn. So cinema plus dance, invocation fezzes, hot chocolate, UNESCO barrier reefs, unseen griffin, deer crossed with horse, a hybrid, just like us. We come from all corners of the globe, shaken like a snow-crusted city in a medieval handstand. We gleefully take towns by storm with our merry prankster bus selves. 3.5 days of cameras, ping pong, and pivo. We compose a shot list from confetti. We are part speed of light, Jules and Jim at midnight. We resist the temptation to crawl into the world and pull our psyches over our heads. In a universe where dance ruled, we'd see fewer body bags. We are cinemascope, chroma key with chromosomes. We are taking back the ozone layer that tries to stomp artists out and put them in tiny, flowery picket places. We go where others have gone and others will go. Van Gogh and Truffaut danced once. It's an everlasting dance. We are one tin can line away from the sky. We need our exuberance more than our math. We need to let our light shine. Cinema dance is the longest magic hour. Let us leave a bread trail. Our breadcrumbs are evident. Feeding the soul is society's true hunger. Dobre huch. Ellyn Mabey.
All right. Thank you, PJ and Ellyn. And now I realize I'm probably going to get a little confused because I'm thinking I'm going to want to comment on Ellyn's poem, and that's the one PJ read. And I want to comment on PJ's poem, and that's the one Ellyn read. So I'm going to do my best to try to remember who wrote what. But thank you, both of you, for reading and reading each other's work so beautifully. Let me start with the basic question I think we have to ask every poet, which is, how did you get into poetry? And Ellyn, I'm going to ask you that question first since I've known you longer.
Okay. Wow. I've been writing kind of like sometimes poems for a really long time. I mean, the first thing I wrote was the Barry Manilow stories where I moved to LA and me and Barry Manilow, I was really hoping that would happen. And, and I wrote that when I was a little girl. And then I started to write just poems would come to me. But later, in a way, that happened when I lived in New York and I had a prop typewriter. I was a apprentice at the actor studio, and then poems would just come to me. And I saw a mannequin in a bookstore, and then suddenly just wrote a poem, and that was kind of from then on. So I was maybe about 20 or so, and then that just kept happening when the poems were ready.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I have to say, because not everyone knows this, but I used to live in LA, lived in LA for almost a decade. And in LA, Ellen, you're pretty famous. Like I'd go to Beyond Baroque and I knew of you and I knew your work, and I'd always, hear, oh, Ellen, maybe he's gonna be at Beyond Baroque on this day, and there's this reading, and Ellen will be there. But oddly enough, I don't think I ever really got to sit down and talk to you or anything until, of course, I've moved away and now everyone's connected on Zoom. So it's funny. It's funny after spending a decade with you, of really only getting to talk to you now when we live apart. Um, I don't think I know, where are you from originally?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm really fascinated by the idea that it was a mannequin that got you started writing first. I mean, do you remember what it was specifically, or was your first poem about that mannequin?
Yeah, yeah, it was like, I mean, it was yeah, just the story, it comes sort of narrative, but it was like this seeing a mannequin in a bookstore and sort of what that seemed to be like there was a definitely a yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think, but it just like the lines would just come, it kind of happened, it just sort of simultaneously all happened, and then I was like, yeah, so it was, yeah, the bookstores. I love bookstores. So it's just like, yeah. And that
No,
was me.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, had you been reading? First of all, I think a lot of people could be very envious of that. That you see something and the poems just arrive, because some of us struggle so much to try to articulate our feelings or anything that we find interesting. So, if you do get a poem that just arrives, that's such a lucky thing. And I'm wondering, were you reading poetry before that? Did you have any favorite poets or poems that heard in childhood or anything like that?
Well, think, I'm really inspired by musical theater. So a lot of the stuff that I was, hearing, like, it's like Stephen Sondheim and like that. I've always been inspired, but there's definitely such a kindredness between the different arts. So music and different things. So yeah, I mean, I'm not as studied by any means in that way. I mean, I didn't study poetry or anything, but I love the beat stuff. That's really cool. I love the imagery and what they're talking about. And Frank O'Hara,
Mhm.
yeah, different
I
stuff.
mean, those are some pretty good poets to study. When you say Sondheim, that totally clicked into place for me, because Sondheim is so um interested in words and wordplay and the sounds of words, and in your poetry I can hear the musicality, I could say, like, elevated vocabulary. Certainly there's all these interesting ways of using words. So if you tell me were influenced by Stephen Sondheim, then I think that makes perfect sense.
Oh, thanks. And Leonard Cohen is somebody whose work I love too very much.
Oh my
Leonard
God, yeah.
Cohen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know this about Leonard Cohen, but apparently, like, he wanted to be a poet when he was younger, and then said, well, there's no money in that, so he put his poems to music because he decided he can make more of a living as a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he came out with some collections and was known, in Canada and stuff. But yeah, and then he was sort of nervous to, sing and do that. But he's just so perfect for his work. The singing, it sounds great. Oh, his work. I had a chance to see him a couple times in person. The shows
Wow.
would be like 3 hours, and he'd skip off stage. It was some of the most beautiful occurrences to see him. And of course, thank goodness, there's a lot of recordings that one can see around and watch. Thank goodness a lot has been archived because it's really
Yeah.
magical. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm so sad that I didn't get the chance. I didn't get the chance to see him before he passed, but the music, we have the music. We
Mhm.
gotta keep listening to the songs and the recordings. So yeah, we're very lucky we live in this age where you can still hear the recordings of great musicians after they've passed, because not everyone had that like a century ago. Um, it's
Yeah.
a good transition to talk to the musician. PJ, same question to you, which is tell me a little bit about how you got into the poetry racket, or maybe for you, maybe you
Mm.
want to talk a little bit more about music and poetry.
Yeah. So this is a much newer thing for me than for Ellen. Uh, so and I'm not sure I've ever really been engaged in writing poetry, but I think I've always had a poetic existence.
Hmm.
And but what happened more recently is uh, about 7 years ago, I decided I was going to write a story a day. And so there's stories, and I still do it. I haven't stopped. I haven't broken that string so far. And Ellen was one of the first people to see that. And somehow I call them pieces, but some of them she labels poetry. And
Hmm.
uh, and after a while, she decided to curate some of them, and it was her thought to kind of create a weave, to create a thematic weave between these pieces that I create on a regular basis.
Huh.
It's always one a day. I never devote more than that certain amount of time a day to one. And and then Ellen just chooses from that. And I trust her because Ellen is absolutely a poet. She's the
Hmm.
absolute like pure definition of what a poet is, at least in my imagination, or what I feel it should be. Um, because a lot of poetry still is to me a little bit intimidating. I love like Frank O'Hara and Leonard Cohen and these people that have been mentioned. Uh, but some of it has not always been, for whatever reason, totally accessible to me. But what I like about Ellen's work is it's completely accessible and kind of very inviting. So I'm kind of happy that she invited me to kind of create this weave together, and that kind of blended into this idea of word troubadours, that it doesn't have to be just like a solitary literary poet, that
Hmm.
there's a performance aspect to it, or a
Hmm.
camaraderie to it, and maybe like a which also like implies like kind of like fun and joy and engagement. So those kind of missions behind it is kind of what's promising to me about this kind of venture together, and which I think is you know really great to be doing it with Ellen. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I said this at the reading that you guys did. Uh, you know, we do get that reputation, by we I mean poets, so we get the reputation that we work in solitude. And there's some research that says that that might not actually be the best thing for everyone's mental health to be writing by
Hmm.
themselves all the time.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I've noticed sort of a new trend that poets are writing to each other, with each other, having these collaborations. um, I just attended a workshop with Kelly Russell Agadon and Melissa Studdard on To Sylvia's Press. Their platform was fantastic, and they did a workshop on the collaborative process, because, of course, it's so much more fun to write with other people, and you're not alone in your feelings, but you're also not alone in the process, and you're just not alone generally. And I think that's in our society today, especially, like that seems to be a real thing that people need, is they need more ways to connect with each other. And I just love that you
Yeah.
guys are embodying that and sharing that, making that part of the process, and making it sort of visible for the rest of us. And then, of course, the result is you've got these great musical poems. So, yeah, thank you both for doing that for yourselves, but also for us who are watching. PJ, I have to totally change topic for a second and ask,
Mhm.
what is this background you have? Your Zoom background is, oh, it's just fascinating on its
Yeah.
own. What is
Yeah.
this we're looking at?
Okay. So this is actually a not so subtle plug for, it doesn't come through the book. It's the book cover, but I think it's beautifully designed by the person who published it. And it's actually I didn't realize this before because I liked the paintings of Miro. It's an early Miro painting before he kind of developed that more distinguished style or distinctive style that Juan Miro is known for, the Catalan painter. So this is one of his earlier works before he kind of developed that more abstract style. But it totally signifies, like you can see like his later work in this more representational one. And I felt like when the publisher proposed this to us, I thought at first that he had drawn it himself because it seemed like just reflective of what we were doing there because it's just an eclectic, study full of fun things like books and a pipe and a carafe and, you know, a toy horse and, all sorts of things that you kind of want in a little fun room. So it just fits well, a mirror and paintings and sketchings are in there. So
That's
it,
fantastic.
yeah,
But for those of us who are not terrible art aficionados, not me, of course, but
yeah.
other people who might be listening, how do you spell that name, Miro?
Miro, I think with an accent, but that's not important. Miro.
And do
And
you know the name of this painting behind you?
I forget the name of the painting itself. Maybe it's listed because it's for copyright reasons, it's somewhere in the book. It's called, yes, it says Horse Pipe and Red Flower by Juan, which is spelled, maybe it's Joan, Joan, Miro, Miro, oil painting 1920.
1920. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think I'm gonna have to look that up and take a
yeah.
closer look at it. Uh, that brings me to my next question, which is the title of the book. The title and the cover, which we're talking about, is quite beautiful, quite eccentric and lively, I think, just really captures the feel of the book. Um, but Word Troubadours, again, for those who are not as well studied as someone like myself, what are troubadours again? Where does this phrase come from?
Should I go first, Ellen, or
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So troubadours, like, I guess they were like a merry band of performers,
Hmm.
primarily like in the Middle Ages, who would go from village to village and perform probably more like songs, but their songs are poetic. Uh, but here the emphasis is on the word, not on the music. So it's the word troubadours. But I think, part of the idea is that it's a collective and that it's about accessibility and engagement and,
Hmm.
you know, and fun, not being too serious.
I think it'd be fun if we brought that back more. The troubadours, just showing up
Yeah.
at a birthday party. We need to have a
Yeah.
clown, we need to have a birthday clown, a princess, a jump house, and a troubadour to come in and sing poems
Yeah.
to everyone at this party.
That'd be
Um,
great.
Mhm.
We need
I
more
mean,
of
I think,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, well, you two would probably be really good at that because you've got a book that is full of magical poems that fit that. Let's talk a little bit more about the genesis of these poems. And I'll punt this to you, Ellyn. I'm wondering what kinds of things were inspiring you as you were working on this book with PJ. Is there anything in the zeitgeist or anything in particular that's really held your attention lately that you need to talk about in poetry?
Hmm. Well, it was a mixture of things. Definitely, um, different things with the arts that was going on. And of course, what's going on in the world was going on and has been going on, so that, that came into it, the different themes and stuff. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I know PJ, you're the one who has Ellen's poem in front of you, but
Mhm.
Ellen's poem has the word medieval in it.
Right.
Can you reread just that one line, that one phrase?
Sure. Uh, we come from all over the globe, shaken like a snow-crusted city in a medieval handstand.
Medieval handstand. It's so I think I was thinking about the troubadours are associated with medieval times, and we've got the medieval handstand, the snow encrusted globe in a medieval handstand. And I'm just thinking, I don't know, society today feels maybe a little reminiscent of a more violent time like the medieval period. Um, yeah, Ellyn, is that something that you turn back to, like incorporating history in poetry?
Yeah, yeah, because so much, certain poems that I wrote, it could be 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Yeah, it
Mhm.
depends what kind of political time, it's really stuff I could have written for, yeah, 25 years ago. It's really still relevant in the way, depending on what's going on a lot too. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of things don't change enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do sometimes wonder, was there some great period of peace that we all missed out on? And can we replicate that? But I don't know. I sort of feel like there's always turmoil in the world. Uh,
We
PJ,
had our
same
chance.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. Did we miss it?
I
Because
think so.
well, look, I voted for peace. I mean, I
Yeah.
voted in a way that I felt was going to create a more harmonious world. So, I mean, I that we is a little too broad, I think. Um, but the same question goes to you, PJ. Like, what are some of the things that motivate you in your writing pieces, whether we're calling them poems or short
Mhm.
stories and things? Like, what is motivating some of your writing?
Um, well, I think and maybe this is similar to Ellen, it's kind of very instinctual.
Hmm.
It's very immediate. So it is kind of whatever the feeling is of the moment that allows that to happen. Um, and so maybe that's an attempt in some way to capture time a little bit, to
Hmm.
to capture to be honest about what's happening in some
Hmm.
emotional way. So that's probably it. I mean, it's for me, it's like an exploration because as I started doing this, I also started reading many more things that I hadn't read before because of the
Hmm.
internet. So I get to explore other things, but I don't really try to be directly influenced by specific things. I just
Hmm.
kind of go by the feelings that are happening. Uh, but definitely we're a product of our time. And maybe that's also the promise of the troubadours. It's a little bit of and it's already present in pre-troubadour poetry, like what Ellyn wrote in the cinema dance. Um, Trying to be an antidote to the times to kind of offer like a different perspective or different hope than how it has to be, or that how it is at the time.
Yeah, I really like this idea of being an antidote to what's going on. William Faulkner in his Nobel acceptance address, I think said something like, artists don't just have to be the props. We don't just have to be the ones recording what's happening. We can also be, no, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I've totally ruined that quote. He said something like, we don't just have to be the recorders who record what's going on. We can also be some of the props in the discussion in the play. Like we can be some of the ones that point people in a different direction and give them ideas of something else we could be doing. And, I love that idea of this being sort of an antidote. This could be something else, some other creative possibility we have uh, to create something better than what's currently going on. Um, Or it can even be just an escape too. Like don't
Hmm.
don't watch the news. Don't get so involved in that. Try to play with your own imagination and allow some freedom for yourself there as well, which I think is what a lot of the
Yeah.
surrealists were getting at. PJ, I want to come back to you though and ask a
Hmm.
little bit about the story poem distinction. I think my whole life I've only written one short story to completion, and it took me like 10 years.
Okay.
Um, so I'm very curious how you're challenging yourself to do one a day. And is there a word count? Can it be like Hemingway's 6 word short story challenge? Say a little bit more about
Yeah.
this incredible task you've taken on.
Well, 6 words would be too challenging. I get a little bit verbose. Um, so at first, I was trying to make them more like classic stories where it really had to be kind of clear, like beginning, middle, and end. But then I realized it doesn't have to be that, and that,
Mm,
you know, the writing itself has a certain rhythm to it or a certain melody to it, so that there can be that playfulness as well. And so the only important thing is to kind of capture like some kind of feeling momentarily. And if
mm,
that's a true story, that's okay. If it's not, that's also okay. Again, I'm hesitant to label any of them poems only because there's so many great poets out there, and I don't want to encroach on what they do. Uh, but it's yeah, but if, for me at least, for me at least, it's a worthwhile endeavor. Uh, and it's true. It's better to kind of to sit down than to watch the news sometimes and just kind of ruminate and see what the emotions bring. Um, but yeah, there's not because this is something that's not. It's it's kind of only for myself, so it's there's no pressure except for the pressure from myself. It's not like
mhm.
uh, there's no demand to it. So I guess that freedom is also important because we don't always have freedom in everything we do. So just kind of
Like
defining my own boundaries. Yeah.
yeah, no, you do in writing. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's something that what a poet, short story writing, that's something a lot of us like about it is that it is a place where you can sit down and for half an hour be free of everything else and whatever you can dream, if you put it on the page, you can make it um, some kind of real. And where else can you do that in life except writing? Like even painting, you got to be able to go
Mm.
out and buy a canvas and get the paints. And that can be
Yeah.
very expensive and time consuming, but poetry and writing,
Yeah.
it's one of the more affordable arts. So, yeah, I
Mm.
definitely resonate with that. And you've said a couple times about feeling and trying to capture a feeling. I would just say that that yeah that maybe we shouldn't be labeling it poem versus story or anything like that. But I'd say that's what a lot of poetry is trying to capture a feeling and in a very short space. So um yeah, short story,
Yeah.
long poem, those distinctions aren't always useful. Um Ellyn, I want to go back to you and ask a question about the layering of this. I think it says in your bio that you were both writing poetry and curating, because I know you were curating how these poems went together. Can you say a little bit about how you curate it? What is that process like? What was that process like?
Oh, well, when I first read the work, which was some time back, quite some time back, really quickly I saw how even though the work was were different, but that there was a compatible feeling in the work and the themes that I thought that they would just kind of weave very naturally, which happened that way. It really, um, yeah, there was always something they read and oh, that one would work with that, or oh yeah, that was so it really went very, very smoothly, easy, really. It kind of had a natural Yeah, totally. There's a lot of in common in the different, but contrast too. I mean, it was really, yeah, it was fun. It's
It
fun.
sounds like it was definitely fun. And uh yeah, it sounds like you work very much by intuition. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. I come from a much more head space. Even when I was in theater and performing arts, my drama teacher was
Mm,
always telling me, like, Trisha, you analyze the text. Have you ever thought about just, trying to figure out a physicality for this character and trying to work from something else besides your head? Um, she didn't say it in a way that was
mm,
quite that she wasn't, I don't know that she was annoyed with
mm,
me, but in retrospect, I do think, yeah, she was onto something. I am in my head a lot, you know? So I really admire when poets can be intuitive, have that kind of intuitive intelligence and trust in the intuition to rely on that to guide you. I think the next question, which is kind of an impossible question, how did you know it was finished? How did both of you know when it
right,
was finished?
Oh, oh, I don't, you know, it's interesting because I mean, in a way, I mean, this particular, yeah, it just seemed like the I could the sequence seemed like it was a good spot, to just it felt like because each poem or each piece from one to the other definitely had its own sequence, and then when it had the last sequence within this chapbook, I was like, yeah, that's yeah. But but there, yeah, there. Yeah, I mean there could be more too, but it felt like that was a nice length. That was just like yeah, it seemed like the whole sequence seemed it just had it's a feeling. I think your cat.
I know, yes,
yeah,
that's
Cat.
not a ghost opening my door. That's my
mhm,
cat opening the door. She doesn't like it when I
mm,
close it. Yeah, you gonna
mm,
come? You want to be part of the podcast? Yeah, she's being camera shy
yeah.
right now, but she might jump up here again soon. I think PJ, the same question goes for you. Like, was there a point where you knew you were done? Oh, did you just run out of ideas, or was it about page count? I mean, how did you know it was
Right.
finished?
So something that you said, I want to go back to it about Ellen, like I think she has a remarkable ability to be completely instinctual,
Hmm.
um, which is you know, not most people are not able to kind of reach that level or to go there. Like, many of us are a little bit too cerebral, or we use that becomes a burden more than a help sometimes.
Hmm.
Uh, for this project, it was very easy for me just to trust Ellen's instincts. So it was Ellen's curation that kind of did it, and I just said, yeah, I had very few comments on my part, just like, okay, this is what you, I see what you're doing. I get it. So let's do that. And so there wasn't really a debate to end because I don't think Word Troubadours is like at the finish, like this is one publication, but I do think there can be a lot more readings, performances, which would be more of a performance character than a reading, classical academic reading type of thing. It would be more of the performance nature, more collaborative in that aspect. So that's kind of a more continuing thing. And it's also true with my process because I have not, like I mentioned, every day I've been writing a new piece. I haven't put an end to that. I just leave that up to nature.
Hmm.
Um, so there's not really, I'm not giving it a cerebral cover yet, like what I'm just kind of letting it flow. And that's kind of what this project is also doing. It's just kind of flowing. And that's part of the nature of it. I think the troubadours of the medieval times, they just kind of went from city to city and or town to town, and sometimes they kicked them out and sometimes they welcomed them. And they never really had an end to it. It's just when everyone was merry and had their fill, they took a pause and then they start it up again. So it's kind of like a continuing process more than a concluding finale sort of thing.
I'm really glad you said that because I was thinking, the volume is a little slim, and I could see it
Yeah,
could being a series of
yeah,
a number of volumes like this. And I am sincere. I think that would be such a fun thing if that was more available to have troubadours, word troubadours come
yeah,
to events. And I of course don't mean just the two of you. I mean, like, every city should have its
yeah,
poet that you reach out to when you need entertainment for your party or your wedding. And I do know some poets who do that. So yeah,
yeah.
let's have more of that. Let's normalize having that as a form of entertainment and community engagement out there in the world. I think that would be a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
It shouldn't
Yeah.
just be as like in the line from the poem that I read by Ellyn, flowery picket places. The ozone layer tries to stomp artists out and put them in tiny flowery picket places. They don't have to be just in those places. They can be, like you said, in those celebrations and in regular parts of life as well.
Yeah. You know, when I was a newer poet, I met the poet Yvonne Boland, who was one of my
Mm,
favorite, and I credit her for being one of the first poets that like introduced me to modern poetry
mm,
and made me think I could be a poet. And she's from Ireland. And she was saying, like, in Ireland, poetry is a lot more present everywhere. And she had a
mm.
poem of hers on an airline, I think.
Oh,
Like,
great.
if
Yeah.
I remember correctly, so like, don't anyone quote me on this, but she said, like, a line of her poem was like stitched into the seats of a cushion on an airline. And I was
Oh,
just
wow.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's different. And then I know in a lot of
And
Middle
that shouldn't be
Eastern.
unique. That should be normal in a way.
Right? Right? I really agree. And I think especially with like slam poetry, I think
Mm,
the slam poets are doing a lot more to make it I want to say like not just accessible, but like, fun and engaging for younger people. And they're really bringing that performance aspect into it, which is what makes it more communal. It's not just for people who want to sit quietly and write, but it's for people who want to get out and look
yeah.
cool and really want to say something, And I'm just, I've never quite fit in with that crowd because I don't like to go out after the sun is down.
Hmm.
But I really like what's happening with that. And I'm really very glad that they're bringing poetry out into the world. And I'm very encouraged by how it's flowering more in more unusual places. Um, yeah, I want I could ask this question. It's a little silly question. I don't know if you have the answer to it or not, but uh, uh your favorite thing about medieval life. I mean, if you were allowed to go back in medieval times, would you? Does it seem like a more interesting time to live?
Ellen?
That's up for debate.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's we gotta
Yeah.
think about that for a
Yeah.
minute.
I mean, I could, unless you want to go first, Ellen, I can.
oh no, no, you can go.
I mean, I'm sure there must have been a lot of positives about it. No one was looking at their phones or their tablets. Most people were illiterate, so it was more like visual stimulation and oral stimulation.
Mhm.
That there probably was a certain joy to the freedom of things. I bet people enjoyed their food and their drink and all the other kind of tangible aspects of life a lot more because they probably appreciated it more. And um, that's kind of what I imagined. There's downsides. There's probably diseases that we know how to get rid of these days and stuff like that, but we forgot how to get rid of them again. But that's another issue. But
Mm.
um, but yeah, I think if you want to idealize the medieval times, it's probably there was like a kind of very substantial joy to just the basics of
Mm.
what it is to kind of like live and breathe and eat and everything else, sleep and wake up. It wasn't as regulated, I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah, I like that. Ellen, what about you?
Oh God, I couldn't say more. I just saw it. It's so articulate. Oh my God, that is so. That was beautiful. That's just so like yeah, yeah. No, that I just thought that was beautiful. I concur. I agree. I mean, wow. He's very
Uh,
articulate, huh? It's amazing. So amazing. So yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, you're very articulate in your poetry, Ellyn. I
Yeah,
mean, really, truly, like the
yeah.
wordplay that you have is incredible. And yeah, I mean, I'll just answer that question too, is I am very happy to be able to have more cures for diseases and things like penicillin, and then go see the medieval cathedrals and read the Book of Hours or the facsimiles
Mm,
of the Books of Hours and things. Um, but in my head, at least, I think fantasizing about living in the medieval times is certainly a lot more fun uh than I'm sure
mm,
it was if you actually had. But we can
mm.
bring back some elements of it, we can have
Yeah.
better architecture and really vibrant art, and more word troubadours bringing more poetry
Mm,
to all the different parties and celebrations. So, we can learn from the past without having to totally erase all of the, scientific developments. Um, I'm looking at the time, and we're close to the end of the hour, and I'm wondering if we could go out the same way we came in. PJ, could you read Ellen's poem again, and then Ellyn, could you read PJ's one more time? I'd love to just hear both of them again.
Okay, so I'll start.
Yes.
with Cinema dance. Cinema plus dance. Invocation, fezzes, hot chocolate. UNESCO barrier reefs. Unseen griffin. Deer crossed with horse. A hybrid, just like us. We come from all over the globe, shaken like a snow-crusted city in a medieval handstand. We gleefully take towns by storm with our merry prankster bus selves. 3.5 days of cameras, ping pong, and pivo. We compose a shot list from confetti. We are part speed of light, Jules and Jim. At midnight, we resist the temptation to crawl into the world and pull our psyches over our heads. In a universe where dance ruled, we'd see fewer body bags. We are cinemascope, chroma key with chromosomes. We are taking back the ozone layer that tries to stomp artists out and put them in tiny, flowery picket places. We go where others have gone and others will go. Van Gogh and Truffaut danced once. It's an everlasting dance. We are one tin can line away from the sky. We need our exuberance more than our math. We need to let our lights shine. Cinema dance is the longest magic hour. Let us have a bread trail. Our breadcrumbs are evident. Feeding the soul is society's true hunger. Dobre huch, Ellen Mabey.
Yes,
We need
thank
our exuberance. That poem
you.
Mm.
certainly is exuberant. Um, Ellyn, reading PJ's poem.
Okay, this is perennial. It's a wholly expected miracle. Flowers bloom on regular occasion, sometimes more, sometimes less. Blossoming is inevitable. And yes, those buds can be snapped or trampled upon, but always something will bloom somewhere, somehow again. Do poems flow from the same spring? Unstoppable, perennial, always blossoming, infinitely unique, invariably miraculous, providing scent and color and asserting life. PJ Swift.
Hmm. Blooming is inevitable. I definitely see how
Mm.
those two poems are working together with the exuberance, and then the blooming is
Mm.
inevitable. Both seem to be maybe different ways of expressing this, life affirming quality of life itself, nature, art. Uh thank you both so much for being here and for sharing this. And listeners, Poetry Salon Cast listeners, please go out and get the book. Um, I want to make sure I get this right. If we're looking for the book, are we just looking for Word Troubadours? I don't think we are. I think we're
Well,
looking for All Spangled.
well,
It's
let's see. I
slipping out
think
of my head right now.
like if people go to, I think it's sparring, like SPARRING artist.com, there would be more like information of its ways to get it, because that's Daniel Yearin's Mystic Boxing Commission. So yeah, they could do that. Yeah.
Fantastic. So look, you're looking for Mystic Boxing Commission and sparring artists, although you two don't seem to be sparring, you seem to be working quite well, quite non-violently together. So good work on that. So sparring artists, Word Troubadours from Mystic Boxing Commission. And once again, thank you so much for being here, Ellyn Mabey and PJ Swift.
Thank you. This was
Thank
so
you.
fun. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Been a real pleasure, and I hope to see both of you again. Maybe, maybe next time I have a festive gathering, you can come jump up
Yeah.
on the table and start reading poetry, and I'll get out my lute and we'll all have some wine and a good song
Mhm.
together.
We'd love to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next time I'm
Cool.
in California.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.